Well, good morning, my brother.
Carlitos, good
Welcome,
morning.
welcome back.
Thank you.
You you've been out west, I hear, and as I told you a little bit earlier on, it's like let's pause. This can't just be for me. It's time to share what's been going on out on the reservation.
Cool.
Love, oh love, true love of
So this was a different
love,
tour of sorts
I'm a
for a
leaving
singer-songwriter.
on
Um,
tomorrow.
Tell us a little bit about what it's like being out on the road on the reservation with mom.
Right. So my mother, for many years now, decades, she has she's had very close friendships with Dene people, and Dene is the name that the people call themselves. They're mostly known as the Navajo, so I'll use Navajo and Dene interchangeably. Um, what my mother has established through her work and her relationships on the reservations is frequent spiritual retreats that she co-leads with the indigenous people, mostly on the Dene Reservation. Her work, you can find out more about it on her website, which is manywaters.net. Manywaters.net. And on this particular trip, it was really special for me and for she and I, because we got to go together, and the first leg of the journey was just the two of us. Um, these retreats are centered around listening to uh, our friends, her friends on the reservations, and many of them are Navajo elders who, some of them are also Episcopalian priests like myself. So some of those relationships were church related, some were not, and they were all very good. Um, what we what she does is she'll bring out groups, usually between 9 and 12 individuals, mostly from the East Coast, from Virginia, and she's done trips bringing people from other places on the East Coast to meet and interact with and learn about indigenous people and cultures and the story of the First Nations people here in North America, particularly the Dene people. Um, and so this was not a tourist trip. This is not a vacation for us and for the other people that joined us. This is a attempt to build relationships and figure out from the Dene people themselves what the nature of that relationship really is, what they want it to be, what it could be. And for me and for my mother as well, it's about not charity, not doing things for people, but being with people. And from that, uh, restoring, divesting our resources, connecting other people who have means and resources to come alongside, build relationships, and give reparations in the truest sense of the word. Reparations, which means repairing things that have been damaged. The only reason that I, as a 21st century um, white, in parentheses, Irish American, uh, male Christian, the only reason I'm comfortable participating in this and contributing is because it's very intentionally not about um, uh, furthering colonial agendas. The people who came along on this trip, there were seven others besides my mother and I, uh, from a church out here in Virginia, in Richmond, called St. James Episcopal Church. Um, they had months of preparation in reading uh, history of the Dene people, a broader history of indigenous people in this country, the genocide that has taken place, that is so uh, consistently overlooked and forgotten, and the voices of indigenous people that have overwhelmingly become uh, invisible and voiceless. Books like um, The Doctrine of Discovery by Mark Charles. Mark Charles is a Navajo writer and activist. Um, Books that tell the story of the Navajo Long Walk, which is kind of equivalent to a more widely known forcible relocation perpetrated by the federal government called the Trail of Tears, the Cherokee Trail of Tears. Well, this story has been repeated um, many times in indigenous cultures, and the Navajo have their own story of forcible relocation as one of the tools of genocide. So they also learned about boarding schools and the horror that was perpetrated against indigenous children. Um, and then also a lot of the positive things, beautiful things, called like the Beauty Way, which is an ancient traditional um, spiritual path that the Navajo people um, walk and teach their children. And elders talk about the beauty way, walking in beauty, beauty before me, beauty below me, beauty above me, beauty within me, beauty all around me. Um, and so these are the things that we stepped into this spiritual journey together. Um, with my mother, and I started in Albuquerque. Then we went to Gallup, New Mexico, which is on the Navajo reservation. We met some of my mother's old friends who lived there on the reservation. They're from there. And we were welcomed into their home. And I was able to play some music for them. They asked me to play some music, and um, they blessed me with gifts, and even more wondrously, they gifted us with their time um, and presence.
I loved hearing about the people that she was bringing out to build these relationships of reparation, but why were you tagged along?
Um, well, I wanted to go for a handful of reasons. Um, the least of which is not that I got to spend time with my mother, and that's precious time. Um, you know, a good way to get to know somebody is to take a road trip, you know,
Yeah.
and so we got to spend time together traveling there. talking and reflecting. And that's a lot of what my life has been about in recent months is reflecting, contemplating. So there was quite a bit of that going on. Um, I have been a student of and Native American cultures, Native American literature, um, poetry, spirituality, theology, um, and history since I was in college with you, Carlitos,
Yeah.
um, and even before that, I was practicing um, Native American uh, medicine. Medicine is a word that we use for religion and spirituality and practice. So I would, since I was a teenager, I was doing the sweat lodge ceremony traditionally with Native American pipe carriers. So these would be medicine men. Do the sweat lodge in a Lakota way, traditional Lakota way, which is they're Plains Indians of the northern Midwest, South Dakota, North Dakota, and other places. And so we do the sweat lodge ceremony, the pipe ceremony, vision quest, and this has been really central to my own spirituality and practice um, and relationship with the Creator for many years. I'm not an expert by any means. Um, I have, however, read a lot about the treaties, broken treaties, all of them, and a lot about the propaganda of the federal government and of dominant culture and state governments to enact um, literal genocide, the destruction of a culture and a people.
How do two spiritual approaches that are seemingly so dialectic coexist after such a history of violence?
Yeah.
Where has that woven in and out for you? Because there, at least in my journey, there's the integration of the two to where I can comfortably feel Christian and Passamaquoddy. It didn't happen overnight. Um, and yet I still can't fully wrap my head around it all. How does that make sense for you and the people that you were with over this time?
Uh, right. So if you're feeling comfortable, you're farther along than I am in this conversation between the two cultures, two kinds of religion, kinds of spirituality. Um, I'm interested in finding out what the spirit is already doing in cultures that are other than mine and participating in that. And can you imagine what uh, this land and its inhabitants would be like today and historically if the early missionaries and colonizers were looking for and finding what the spirit was already doing and being part of that rather than creating this false dichotomy, saying one is right and one is wrong, and operating under manifest destiny, which is, I mean, just just uh, an evil notion, even an evil doctrine that the church, the Roman Catholic Church, um, purported. And people, that's how the West was won. That's how, you know, the story of um, the American or I should say, the European uh, invasion and conquest of over 500 indigenous nations, sovereign nations, with each of them with their own intricate um, understandings of the world and the cosmos and spirituality and language and civilization and government, right? Imagine what it would have been like. So here's the thing is that I renounce and I reject Eurocentric forms of this thing we call Christianity. Western Christianity has been, by and large, with some outliers and some exceptions, but by and large, it has been a force for ugliness and destruction and racism and white supremacy and evil in the world. So, one of the ways I reconcile it is by owning that. Um, a lot of that was done to my ancestors and my immediate family, uh, the indigenous people of the island of Ireland. This conquest came with a gun and a cross, and so I reject that. Um, I own the fact that it happened. I dissect and examine myself and the ways in which I've participated from that conquest and colonization and the ways in which I still benefit from it. And my life's journey and is uh, not in spite of following Christ, but because I follow Christ. I denounce and betray to my core the systems of white supremacy and the systems of colonialism and imperialism and materialism that have caused such horror in the world, particularly upon indigenous people, and let's face it, people of color. Um, so here's another way, and I'll make this one quicker. I'll make this explanation a little bit quicker than the last one to put it in a positive spin, something to really cling on to and something to meditate on, is that um, the origin of this whole thing, this movement that has become Christianity in institutional forms, right? Um, it started with a brown skin Palestinian Jew, refugee, migrant, homeless at certain points, man named Jesus, whose family and tribe were under occupation by the Roman Empire. And before that, by the Assyrians. And before that, by the Egyptians. This is a story of tribal people living under occupation, whose lands were stolen and who were subjugated and deeply oppressed. And it was from that context that this teacher um, that we know as Jesus um, came, and that's where the movement started. So if we keep that in mind, um, we can let's go back to the root. And while we're going back to the root, let's go forward to a time that and build something, as we tear down the old structures and systems and the current structures and systems that dehumanize people. Let's move forward to something that honors um, people, honors the oppressed, honors the other, honors the stranger, and sees Jesus in the context that he really was, as uh, a person living under the empirical power of a colonial uh, empire.
Yeah, so precisely along those lines of building relationships, um, of healing, of restoration, you had some great experiences while out on the reservation.
Yeah, yeah. One thing happened that was really cool, like uh, really surprising and exciting. I was in Taos, New Mexico, and in Taos there's a reservation where the Taos Pueblo are from, and there are ruins, and they are one of the oldest ruins in the Americas.
Huh.
And they're still functioning, they're still in use. People still live there. And in this Pueblo village, there are vendors, artists, jewelry makers, silversmiths, weavers, doing rugs and tapestries and things like that. And one of the little shops, studios there that I wandered into with my mother, um, I came across this painter sculptor. Her name is Geraldine Luan Lucero, and her native name is Gathering Flowers. And I was really impressed by her paintings and just looking around at this one room studio. We found out later that this was her grandmother's bedroom at one point. Um, so she's been there for a long time. The studio is called the Sagebrush Deer Studio, and it's in historic Taos Pueblo. Uh, and so I was loving her paintings, and I was kind of thumbing through her prints, that you can create a print of an original painting and sell those. So she had several of these, and I landed on one of them, and I recognized it right away uh, as um, the cover of an anthology of the books of Vine Deloria Jr. Now, Vine Deloria Jr. Is a renowned. He's passed away now, but he's widely considered one of the leading voices in sociology, anthropology, and Native American studies. And I've read all of his books, some of them a few times. And I've had in my possession, I don't have it with me right now because it's in storage. This book, it's an anthology of his of his works, and the cover of it was is this painting that I found in this little studio, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, just my mind was blown, and I said, "What's this doing here?" And I held up the print. She said, "Oh, you recognize that?" And I said, "Well, yeah. Uh, it's the cover of a Vine Deloria book that
Wow.
I've had and referred to and read from for decades."
Um,
And she said, "How did you know that?" She said, "I think you might be the first person who's ever come in here, recognized it, and pointed that out to me." I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So Vine Deloria, his books, "Custer Died for Your Sins," um, "Trail of Broken Treaties," and his great theological book, that compares that describes and illustrates Native American theology or theologies, and then parallels them, mostly contrasts them, like we were talking about before, with Western Christianity. Uh, and Yeah, I looked around the studio,
wow.
and I saw the original of this painting.
Wow.
It's the painting of a Nez Perce holy man, medicine man, warrior. Um, and I saw the original there, and I said, "Wow, it must cost a fortune." And she said, "Well, yeah, it's not for sale. Um, I'm saving it for my retirement fund if I ever need it, right?" And I'm sure it's worth like tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Wow.
Um, and also priceless. So I really wanted to buy this print, and I kind of like put it on the counter. I was reaching for my wallet. I said, "How much is it?" And she said, "It's $500." And that's a little too rich for me. So instead, I bought these. Here's a Plains Indian warrior that Gathering Flowers painted. It's a good one there. And another one here that I got is called Navajo Man. It's a Navajo man. You can see it there.
Yep. Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah, her work is just amazing. And if you Google Geraldine Luan Lucero,
Yep.
um, you can find her works and buy prints and things like that. I mean, and I got a photograph with her. I think you'll probably show that too.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
It was
share
just
all of
amazing. I mean, it was one of those like moments of, synchronicity or whatever you
that.
want to call it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's that intention of retribution that comes back to you as a gift, right? You're you wanting that repair and that time with your mom, time on the reservation, and then the divine comes back and says, "Well, here's a little bit for you too, man."
Right. Like we call it a wink.
Yeah.
This was a little bit bigger than a wink. This was like a hello. So I'm staying in touch with
Beautiful.
Gathering Flowers, and when I
Beautiful.
go back out again, I'm gonna spend some time with her, hopefully.
Yeah, who knows? This coming fall, and we've talked about it in podcasts before. You'll be releasing Forbidden Hymns, but you've got a couple of other records, under your belt, and we might have some artwork from her on one of these later down the line. So,
Wow, I hadn't even thought of that. I probably
well,
can't afford her.
well, we don't. The Lord works in mysterious ways, my brother. I'm just putting that out into the
Got
universe.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. Any other tales from your time out on the reservation?
Right. So from Taos, we united with this group from Virginia. 7 others joined us. And I was happy with the work that they had done in preparation for the most part. Right. I mean, questions like, how do I not be a tourist?
Mm.
How do I not be a voyeur? How do I not be a colonist? And these are really uh, complicated questions, right? And one of the things that my mother does so well and exemplifies so well is that, she knows about the conquest. She knows a lot. She knows about the history. She knows the nuance, and she knows the gory, disturbing details of how everything went down and is still happening. Um, so she's aware of those things. She feels them. But what I was really impressed by was that she just has these really deep, loving, intimate friendships and bonds, like kinship, with some Navajo elders, uh, particularly at the St. Christopher mission, um, on the Dine Reservation in Utah near Bluff. And I mean, just warmth and um, tears in greeting hello, and even more tears in saying goodbye or saying see you soon. On the reservation, I was invited to co-officiate, co-celebrate a mass, an Episcopalian mass, in a church called St. John the Baptizer, where Reverend Mother Paula Hewson, Mother Paula Henson, is the priest there. We had a healing service and also a Sunday morning mass. And in these services and ceremonies, there was a blending, you know, uh, a oneness, right? And I don't mean a sameness of traditions and spirituality
Mhm.
uh,
Wow. Yeah.
and ceremony, because they're not the same. And to say that they're the same is to reduce um, both traditions, right? But it was a blending and a kind of oneness, and the Dene language was being spoken as well as English, and Dene narrative and um, sacred stories were you know, intertwined, woven together um, with the Christian narrative and stories. And we broke bread together, and we ate lunch together. The congregation that Sunday morning was about half and half. Those of us on the spiritual retreat, and then those of them who were Navajo elders and um, young people and families. Um, Man, it was really profound. It was a beautiful thing.
Mm.
Um, I also met
Hey,
a guy.
John, as a friend, okay, and a friend for decades now, okay. We don't talk about it, how long it's been, but going back to that,
Because we still look really young.
yeah, at that component of being in our early 20s, studying, exploring, opening, breaking down. It's beautiful to hear this other gift that you were given to be able to give that mass
Yeah,
at levels that I just want you to know I'm hearing, right? Like you didn't become a priest overnight, and you didn't make the decision to become a priest in light of everything that you knew about what Christianity had done. Um, and then to be able to officiate the liturgy in a place where, like you well said, not sameness takes place, but togetherness.
Right. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. You know, and did we F up? Yeah, it's going to happen. The important thing is that we weren't in the white folks and visitors, guests there, receiving hospitality from people there. We weren't in the driver's seat. And that's the important part, you know. Um, to be guided by and even placing ourselves under the authority of the elders there, uh, and you know, doing things alongside and with, but also in surrender to them. It's great. Can I tell you about this dude I met named Craig?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when I first got there, my new friend, my mother's old friend, Diane, she runs the mission there, St. Christopher's Mission. She's Dine. She's been there, she's born there, lived there forever, and she's great. Hi, Diane. Um, she was telling me about this dude that I really should meet who lives on the reservation named Craig, and he goes by Neon Native. And I think his stage name, artist name that he goes by is Neon Natives.
Hmm.
It's like a electronic music, like a DJ kind of. I mean, it's a world of music that I know very little about, right? But apparently, you know, he's got like 6.5 million views on one of his videos on YouTube. Like he's really
Cool.
well known,
Yeah,
you
we'll
know.
link it down here below.
Yeah. So Diane was trying to introduce us and connect us, and then this one day, we were all having lunch at a local restaurant, and there's only like two restaurants within like a 50-mile radius, you know.
Yeah.
We went to this restaurant, we were having lunch, and in walks this dude, and Diane introduced me to him. This is Craig. And I was like, Craig, Neon Natives. He's like, yeah, hey, how are you? And we met, we talked a little bit, and today I'm wearing a Sinead O'Connor uh,
Yeah.
t-shirt. But that day I was wearing a shirt, my AIM t-shirt. AIM stands for American Indian Movement. They've been around for quite some time. They would say they've been part of the resistance against colonialism since 1492. However, they had a big sort of they hit a peak, I would say, in the early 70s, and they led an uprising on the Pine Ridge Reservation. Leonard Peltier was arrested that day. Anyway, I've been sort of adjacently following and involved with AIM, particularly for the Freedom for Leonard Peltier movement, who he did receive clemency, uh, and he was released this year.
Yeah.
So, so things can happen. Um, it was about time, you know. Anyway, I was wearing my AIM t-shirt. You know, I love reading John Trudell's work as a poet and as an activist, and Russell Means. Anyway, Craig, Neon Natives, saw my shirt. He's like, "Hey, man, I love your shirt. You know, the president of AIM, I was just with him. We just were hanging out. We went on a canoeing trip. He was just in the parking lot." I was like, "What?" you know, and
Wow.
and Craig said, well, he's already gone. Uh, so when I go out again, hopefully I can um, explore a little bit more what Craig and Neon Natives are up to. Activist, justice oriented, traditional native instruments and music combined with electronic music. It's really cool. Check it out.
No, we will be linking all of this into the description on our channel. You can see it right here at the bottom of the screen. Um, John, we go way back, but some people might have heard you for the first time, when Philadelphia EP came out, and may not necessarily make the connections. Wait a minute. I thought he was a folk singer songwriter that I loved seeing in downtown Philly. Like, where where in all of the beautiful music that you've put out do you think of when all of this, which kind of came through your mom, begins to percolate into a lyric, into a melody, and
Yeah.
it really lives in what you're bringing to the voice of healing that is needed? Where does that live in John Francis O'Mara's music?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Philadelphia EP, and I think maybe you featured this song before, but the song Kill the Dreamer is on that EP. And there's a lyric in there that it says, it's Montgomery and Wounded Knee.
Hmm.
Montgomery and Wounded Knee.
Hmm.
And the first thing I did right is the day I started this fight. So raise your fist, resist, and let's get free. And I think Montgomery is a reference to the civil rights movement and the marches and boycotts that took place there. Wounded Knee is a reference to the massacre at Wounded Knee. If you don't know about it, you need to read about it. The blood of the people still cries out from the ground. And there's another song that I play. It's not on any recording yet, but I play it live, and it's called "Just a Moment Ago." And one of the lyrics there is "Just a moment ago, the buffalo roamed. Susanna cried for me with a banjo on her knee." And then it goes on. It says, uh, "Whistling Dixie, dying to blow your horn, playing taps for the natives when the baby was born. America, I love you, but you're breaking my heart."
Mm. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. So where is that coming on a record down the line? Like what?
Yeah. Yeah. So Forbidden Hymns comes out this year.
Uh-huh.
And you'll hear all about that. And then this song just a moment ago will definitely be on the next record, which is untitled at this point.
Are there any demos of it out
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I could send you a demo. Sure.
And you could also maybe give us a little live version right from that place where you're talking to us right now sometime later this week, I bet.
Well, sure.
All right, man. This, as always, is an honor. I feel lucky. I love you. And thank you for saying, yeah, I'm okay with sharing that with others too. What starts as usually a conversation with you and I over the phone, and it's just a pause of like, I can't hoard some of these things that you're telling me. And that's where our relationship has really, grown now, and saying, hey, there's others that I think would benefit and enjoy hearing these things. And that if I can be that piece in this whole thing that you're doing, that we're doing. And that we is bigger than you and me. Like there's some of us doing these things. And what is that? It's hard to define, but it certainly has a hue and a melody that sounds like healing. So,
Right on, man. Good job.
all right.
Well done, man. Love you too,
Later.
man.
Later on, say hi to mom, give her a big kiss.
I will.
All right. I don't know what that's all about. I guess, what was that?
I don't know.
Something you did gave us balloons. What the hell? Or were those really live in your home? All right. Bye-bye, dude.
All right, man.
Meet me on the Mason-Dixon line. Meet me on the Mason-Dixon line. And the ghost of our division hang like specters in the sky and disappear in those Shenandoah pines.